The rain fell in quiet sheets that night, the kind that painted the city in shimmering silver and whispered secrets through half-open windows. Alina stood beneath the grand chandelier of the ballroom, her red silk gown clinging to her like temptation made flesh. She was nobody, really, an ordinary woman in an extraordinary place, hired to serve champagne to the elite who never once looked her in the eye. But he did. Ethan Duval, the reclusive billionaire whose name filled headlines and whose empire spanned continents, noticed her. His gaze found her through the glittering crowd, steady and unreadable. When their eyes met, time seemed to draw in a breath and hold it. For the first time in her life, Alina felt seen. He didn't approach her like a man used to owning the world. He moved with quiet confidence, his voice smooth, almost gentle. "You look like you don't belong here," he said. She laughed softly. "That's because I don't." "Good," he murmured, eyes lingering. "Neither do I." That single night stretched into something unforgettable. Stolen hours of laughter, vulnerability, and reckless chemistry neither of them expected. They talked until dawn, shared dreams, scars, and truths they'd never confessed to anyone. When the city fell asleep, Ethan led her to his penthouse, where the lights of the skyline wrapped him in gold. By morning, Alina left without saying goodbye. She couldn't. It had been too perfect, too unreal. She thought it best to leave it as a beautiful accident, a secret memory. But life, she would soon learn, had other plans. A week later, the tabloid erupted. Billionaire Ethan Duval missing after scandalous party. Rumors swirled, embezzlement, betrayal, even murder. His empire was collapsing overnight. Then came the letter. It arrived at Alina's small apartment, sealed in black wax, her name written in elegant script. Inside was a single line in Ethan's unmistakable handwriting. "If you're reading this, I've trusted you with everything." And beneath it, a key, gold, heavy, engraved with the initials ED. Her heart pounded as she flipped the page. There was an address scribbled in the corner, an abandoned estate on the edge of the city. Curiosity, fear, and something deeper compelled her to go. The mansion loomed like a secret carved into the night. The gates creaked open as if expecting her. Inside, dust-coated marble floors and portraits of the Duval family watched her every step. She found a hidden door behind a bookshelf, leading down a narrow staircase that smelled faintly of cedar and salt. At the bottom, a single light flickered over rows of safes, ledgers, and locked cabinets. And there, taped to one of them, was another note. "They're coming for what's mine. Don't trust anyone, not even the ones who say they know me. The truth starts here." Before Alina could make sense of it, the sound of tires screeching outside shattered the silence. Voices echoed to the halls, sharp, commanding, unfamiliar. She grabbed the key, stuffed the note into her purse, and ran through the side exit. As she darted into the shadows of the estate gardens, she caught a glimpse of men in suits entering to the front, their earpieces glowing faint blue under the moonlight. Whoever they were, they weren't there to help. That night, Alina's world tilted. She realized she wasn't just holding a secret. She was holding something powerful, something people were willing to kill for. When she reached her apartment, she found her door slightly open. Her breath froze. Inside, everything was gone, her belongings, her photographs, even her clothes. The only thing left was a single object on her bed, a silver watch. Ethan's watch, the one he'd worn that night. The hands had stopped at exactly 3:17 a.m., and engraved beneath the glass, almost invisible, were 3 words that made her blood run cold. "Find the ledger." She sat down slowly, the weight of realization pressing hard against her chest. Ethan hadn't disappeared. He was hiding, and somehow she had become part of whatever game he was playing. But why her? Why the woman he'd only spent one night with? The next morning, as she tried to piece together what little she knew, a voice message arrived from an unknown number. Static crackled, then a whisper, low, strained, and unmistakably his. "Alina, they know about you now. If you want to live, don't go to the police. Trust only the man who wears the black ring." Then silence. She replayed it again and again, heart racing. Who was the man with the black ring? And what exactly did they know about her? She looked out the window. Across the street, a black car was parked. Its windows were tinted, but she could feel eyes watching her. For the first time, Alina realized she wasn't just part of a love story anymore. She was part of a conspiracy, one that stretched deeper and darker than she could imagine. And somewhere out there, Ethan Duval, the man she thought she'd lost, was pulling the strings. The question was, for her or against her? The phone slipped from Alina's trembling fingers, clattering onto the wooden floor. Her breath came shallow and uneven as she stared at the black car outside. Every instinct told her to run, but something deeper, that quiet, burning curiosity that had always gotten her into trouble, told her to stay. She crouched low, peeking through the curtain. The car door opened, and a man stepped out. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a tailored charcoal suit. Even from a distance, she saw it, the glint of a black ring on his right hand. Her pulse quickened. Ethan's message echoed in her mind. Trust only the man who wears the black ring. Before she could decide whether to confront him or flee, there was a knock, soft, deliberate, like a warning. She hesitated, her mind spinning with possibilities. Then the knock came again, this time firmer, sharper. Miss Alina. A deep voice said through the door, "I'm here because of Ethan Duval." Her heart almost stopped. Nobody knew about Ethan. Nobody should have. She pressed her back against the wall, her thoughts racing. "Who are you?" she called, her voice breaking slightly. "Someone he trusted," the voice replied. "But we don't have much time. They're tracking this location. Open the door if you want to live." It sounded insane, but something in his tone, calm, measured, certain, made her believe him. Against every ounce of logic, she unlatched the lock and opened the door. He stood there, rain dripping from his coat, his face partially shadowed by the dim hallway light. His eyes, gray and piercing, swept over her quickly as if assessing danger. "You shouldn't have come back here," he said. "I don't even know who you are," she whispered. He stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "Name's Marcus. I work for Ethan, private security. But when everything fell apart, I went dark. He told me if anything happened, I'd find you." "Why me?" she demanded. "I knew him for one night. That's all." Marcus looked at her with something like pity. "That's what you think." He reached into his coat and pulled out a small flash drive. He said, "You'd understand what to do with this." Alina stared at it, confusion twisting through her. "Understand? I don't even know what this is." "Then you'd better learn fast," Marcus said grimly. He walked to the window, peering outside. "They're not far behind. You can't stay here." Before she could protest, he grabbed her coat from the hook and tossed it to her. "Move." Minutes later, they were in his car, speeding through the rain-slicked streets. Alina clutched the flash drive in her hands, her mind swirling with questions. The city lights blurred past like ghosts. "Where are we going?" she asked finally. "Somewhere safe," he replied. "But first, you need to see what's on that drive. It's the reason Ethan disappeared." He turned down a deserted industrial road, pulling into an old warehouse. The place smelled of rust and sea air. Marcus led her to a small office in the back, booted up a dusty laptop, and inserted the flash drive. A password prompt appeared. "Try something," he said. She hesitated. What could it be? She remembered Ethan's watch, the numbers, 3:17 a.m. She typed 0317. The screen flickered, then opened. Dozens of encrypted files filled the folder, each labeled with names she didn't recognize, companies, offshore accounts, and government officials. Marcus leaned closer. This is a ledger," he murmured. "The one he told you to find." Her eyes widened. "The ledger? Ethan must have uncovered something massive," Marcus said. "Money laundering, political bribes, corporate cover-ups. It's all here. If this gets out, half the country burns." Alina stared at the screen, realization dawning like a slow, terrifying sunrise. So this is what they're after. This is why he's gone. Marcus nodded grimly. "And why they'll kill anyone connected to him." Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. He checked it, and his expression changed. "They found us," he said quietly. Her stomach dropped. "How?" "No time," he cut in, pulling a gun from his jacket. "Stay behind me." She barely had time to process what was happening before headlights flooded through the warehouse windows. Black SUVs screeched to a halt outside, doors flying open. Men in tactical gear fanned out with military precision. Marcus cursed under his breath. They move fast. "Go through the back, now." Gunfire shattered the silence, glass exploding across the floor. Alina ducked, heart hammering, as Marcus returned fire. She crawled toward the back door, clutching the flash drive like her life depended on it. Because it did. Outside, the cold night air bit her skin. She stumbled toward an alley, rain soaking her hair, adrenaline driving her forward. Behind her, she heard Marcus shouting, then the unmistakable sound of a struggle. She turned for one desperate glance, saw him grappling with two men, before one struck him hard across the head. "Marcus!" she screamed, but her voice was lost in the rain. He looked up just long enough to shout, "Run!" And she did. She ran through the maze of alleys until her lungs burned and her legs trembled. She ducked behind a dumpster, pressing a trembling hand to her mouth. Her mind was chaos. Ethan, the ledger, Marcus, the men in black. Every piece felt connected, but the picture made no sense yet. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number again. She hesitated, then answered. A voice spoke, calm, smooth, achingly familiar. "Alina," Ethan said. Her breath caught. "Ethan, you're alive?" "For now," he said softly. "Listen to me very carefully. You can't trust Marcus. He's not who he says he is." She froze. "What?" "No, he saved me." "Did he?" Ethan interrupted. "Think, Alina. Who told them where you were hiding? Who led them right to the warehouse?" Her mind reeled. "But he had the black ring. You told me to trust." "I told you to trust a man with a black ring," Ethan said darkly. "Not a man. There's a difference." Her heart sank. "Then who are you? Where are you?" "I can't tell you that yet," Ethan replied. "They're listening, but there's something you need to know. The ledger, it's only half the truth. There's another drive, one that explains everything. Find the lighthouse on the coast. Room 7. Don't trust anyone." The line went dead. Alina sat in stunned silence, the rain thundering around her. Her hands shook as she looked at the flash drive, then back toward the city lights in the distance. Nothing made sense anymore. Not Ethan's words, not Marcus's loyalty, not even her own memories of that night they shared. Then faint footsteps echoed nearby. She turned sharply, her breath catching. A silhouette approached slowly from the corner of the alley. Tall, deliberate, familiar. Marcus. He was alive, his face bruised, his coat torn. "You okay?" he asked, his voice steady, too steady. She clutched the flash drive tighter, hiding it behind her back. "You told me to run," she said cautiously. "And you listened," he said, forcing a faint smile. "Smart girl." He stepped closer, his eyes scanning her face. "We have to move before they find us again." She hesitated. Ethan's warning echoed in her ears. "You can't trust Marcus." She looked at his hand. The black ring gleamed faintly under the streetlight. Her voice trembled. "Marcus, where did you get that ring?" He froze, just for a fraction of a second, and in that pause, Alina saw it, the flicker of truth behind his eyes. It wasn't his. She took a step back, pulse racing. He noticed, his expression hardened, the mask dropping away. "Ethan was right," he said softly. "You're smarter than you look." Then he smiled, the kind of smile that didn't reach the eyes, and reached into his coat. Alina turned and bolted into the rain before he could draw whatever he was reaching for, her mind screaming with one thought. Find the lighthouse. The city blurred around her. Neon lights, roaring traffic, the sound of sirens in the distance. She didn't stop running. Not when her legs burned. Not when she stumbled across puddles and alleyways. Not until the ocean came into view, gray and endless under the storm. Far ahead, through the curtain of rain, a faint beam of light swept across the dark horizon. The lighthouse. And for the first time since that night with Ethan, she felt something burning beneath the fear. Hope. The storm raged like an untamed beast, its winds howling against the cliffs as Alina stumbled toward the lighthouse. Each gust clawed at her clothes, whipping her hair into her face, but she didn't stop. The beam of light above turned slowly, rhythmically, slicing through the darkness as if guiding her toward a truth that had been waiting all along. The flash drive was clenched so tightly in her hand that the metal casing dug into her skin, warm from her fear and determination. Somewhere behind her, tires screeched against wet gravel. Marcus was close. She reached the rusted door at the base of the lighthouse and shoved it open. The smell of salt and decay filled her lungs. Inside, the air was heavy with damp and silence. The stairs wound upward into shadow, and for a brief moment, she considered hiding. But then she remembered Ethan's voice, calm, certain, commanding. Room 7. Her boots clanged against the metal steps as she climbed, breath shallow, heart pounding in her throat. When she reached the landing, she saw the corridor of small rooms built into the circular wall, each marked with number. Room 3, Room 5, Room 7. She pushed it open. The room was dimly lit by a single hanging bulb. Papers covered the small desk, blueprints, bank records, and photographs that froze her in place. Ethan, smiling beside political figures. Ethan shaking hands with men she'd seen on news channels, men whose names screamed power. And among them, a photo of Marcus, younger, in a military uniform, standing behind Ethan like a shadow. And on the table, a second flash drive. Her fingers trembled as she reached for it. Before she could, a familiar voice broke through the silence behind her. "I was hoping you'd find it." She turned. Ethan Duval stood in the doorway, soaked to the bone, rain dripping from his hair. He looked older, worn, the sharp confidence replaced by something raw. Guilt, exhaustion, maybe both. "Ethan," she whispered, her voice cracking. "You're alive." "For now," he said softly, closing the door behind him. "I told you to trust no one, but you came anyway. That's either brave or very foolish." Tears welled in her eyes. Relief, confusion, anger all tangled together. "You disappeared. You let everyone think you were dead. You sent me into a nightmare." "I had no choice," he said, stepping closer. "The people I exposed, they don't forgive and they don't forget. I needed to disappear before they erased me." "Then what am I to you?" she demanded. "Why me? Why that night?" He hesitated, and for the first time, she saw the truth flicker across his face, a vulnerability he'd never shown before. "Because you were the only person in that room who looked at me and didn't see money. You saw me. I trusted that." Her breath hitched. "And you used that trust to drag me into this?" Ethan shook his head slowly. "No. I brought you into this because I knew you'd survive it. You were never a mistake. Alina, you were the only variable I couldn't predict, and the only one who might still save everything." Before she could speak, footsteps echoed from below, heavy, deliberate. Marcus's voice carried upward, cold and calm. "Ethan, you can't hide forever." Ethan's eyes flicked to the door. "He found us." "What does he want?" she whispered. "The ledger," Ethan replied. "Both parts. With them, he controls the story. Without them, we destroy everything he's built." The footsteps grew louder. Ethan grabbed the second flash drive and pressed it into her palm. "If anything happens, take this to press. There's a journalist named Corrine Holt at the Global Tribune. She's the only one who'll believe you. And you," he gave a half-smile that didn't reach his eyes. "I stopped believing in happy endings a long time ago." The door burst open, and Marcus stood there, gun drawn, eyes locked on Ethan. "You should have stayed dead," he said coolly. Ethan stepped forward slowly. "So it's true. You sold me out." Marcus shrugged. "You made it easy. All that idealism. Thinking you could take down an empire and walk away clean. You were never ruthless enough to win this game, Ethan. But I am." Alina's pulse thundered. She held both flash drive behind her back, praying he wouldn't notice. "Marcus, you don't have to do this," she said. "Whatever they're paying you." He laughed. "It's not about money anymore, sweetheart. It's about survival." Ethan moved subtly, just enough to block her from Marcus's view. "Then shoot me," he said. "But you'll never find the second drive." Marcus smirked. You think I don't already know where it is? He raised his gun, and at that exact moment, lightning flashed through the window, illuminating Ethan's face. The shot rang out. The sound split the air. Ethan staggered back, hand clutching his side, blood blooming through his shirt. Alina screamed, catching him as he fell to his knees. "Run," he gasped, his voice barely a whisper. "Now." Marcus stepped forward, gun still raised, his smile dark. "You really thought you could outsmart me?" Alina's mind raced. The storm outside roared like fury itself. She glanced at the lamp on the table, its cord stretching to a wall socket. And then, without thinking, she grabbed the lamp and swung it with all her strength. The glass shattered against Marcus's arm, electricity sparking through the air. He cursed, the gun firing wildly, bullets tearing into the ceiling. The bulb exploded, plunging the room into darkness. Alina grabbed Ethan's arm. "Get up. Come on." They stumbled toward the stairs, half running, half falling as thunder cracked overhead. Marcus's footsteps followed, unrelenting, echoing closer and closer. They burst through the base door into the storm. Wind tore at them, rain lashing against their skin. Ethan stumbled again, his strength fading fast. "Go," he said, voice weak. "You can still make it." "I'm not leaving you," she shouted over the roar. "You have to," he coughed, blood on his lips. "Everything depends on you now." She shook her head furiously, clutching his hand. "No, Ethan, we finish this together." A flash of lightning illuminated the cliffs. Marcus appeared behind them, gun raised once more. Alina turned, eyes blazing. "You'll never win," she screamed. He fired, but Ethan moved faster than she could react. He shoved her aside, the bullet striking him squarely in the chest. For a heartbeat, time froze, the storm, the rain, the world itself holding still. Then he fell, his body collapsing into her arms. Marcus approached slowly, breath ragged, satisfied. "Tragic," he said softly. "He dies a hero, you die a fool." But he didn't notice the flash drive in Alina's other hand, connected to the small tracking beacon she'd activated the moment they entered the lighthouse. A faint red light blinked under her thumb. "You should have paid more attention," she said through her tears. Sirens wailed in the distance. Helicopter blades thundered overhead. Marcus's expression faltered. "What did you do?" "Exactly what Ethan planned," she whispered. Floodlights tore through the darkness. Dozens of agents in tactical gear descended from the cliffs, shouting commands. Marcus turned to run, but there was nowhere left to go, only the raging sea behind him. "Don't move," a voice ordered. Marcus froze, then looked at Alina one last time, hatred twisting his face. "You have no idea what you started," he hissed. He stepped backward, his heels slipping on the slick stone, and before anyone could react, he fell. His scream was swallowed by the storm as the waves devoured him whole. The agents rushed forward, pulling Alina and Ethan from the edge. She clung to him desperately, sobbing. His eyes fluttered open, faintly, the ghost of a smile touching his lips. "You did it," he whispered. "Don't talk," she begged, holding his face in her trembling hands. "You're going to make it." He exhaled shakily. "Promise me. You'll tell them everything." "I will." "And one more thing," he murmured, his gaze softening. "That night, it wasn't just one night for me." His hand fell still. The wind howled through the cliffs as dawn began to break, painting the horizon with muted gold. The storm faded into a whisper, leaving only the crashing of waves below. Alina sat in silence, his head resting against her lap, tears mixing with the rain. Weeks later, the world would know the truth. Headlines would explode across every network. Corruption exposed. Duval's data brings down global syndicate. Ethan's name would be both curse and legend. The man who gave his life to reveal the rot beneath the world's richest empire. But for Alina, it was more personal. She stood at the same cliff one morning, wind in her hair, holding both flash drives in her hand. She had delivered the story, fulfilled the promise, but the silence he left behind was unbearable. The world had been saved by a man everyone thought was corrupt, and by the woman no one remembered. As she turned to leave, A soft chime came from her phone. An encrypted message. No sender ID. Only a single line of text. Some secrets can't die. ED. Her heart stopped. She looked toward the horizon, where the sea met the rising sun. And for just a moment, she could have sworn she saw a figure watching from the rocks below, coat whipping in the wind, before vanishing into the mist. A slow smile crept across her lips. Maybe miracles didn't exist, but mysteries, those never truly ended. And somewhere out there, in a world still trembling from the storm he started, Ethan Duval was still playing his game.